that's when we can put more salt in. There's no the in there. My English is getting so much worse ever since I've been here. It's ridiculous. Hey everyone, welcome back to Chef Tyler's Croatian Kitchen, and today we will be continuing our exploration of Croatian soups with chicken soup, or kokošja juha. Chicken soup is known around the world as that one thing you have when you're not feeling well, and it's for good reason. It's a great way to stay hydrated, it's full of nutrients to help you fight off whatever is keeping you sick, and above all, it just tastes darn good. You don't have to be sick to have chicken soup. It probably tastes better when you're not sick, when all of your taste buds are actually working well. So the big reason I'm making this now is because all of my friends are sick with the flu, and this is the perfect thing to have when you're sick, so I'm going to give some to them, but also to keep you from getting sick. All the nutrients in here are definitely going to be helpful and can help ward off getting sick as much as you can. It's not perfect, of course, but it's still something, and something is better than nothing. So let's get right on into the ingredients. First, of course, I have an entire chicken carcass. This carcass I got a few days ago. I bought a whole chicken and broke it down and put it into the freezer to keep it for today. You don't have to freeze your carcass before using it. You can, of course, use it fresh. You also don't have to break down an entire chicken to get the carcass. You can go to your butcher and ask if they have either chicken carcasses, chicken bones, but ideally, really all you'll need is the neck bone, the backbone, and maybe a few others if they have it, like the wings are good too. And when I say your local butcher, I'm referring to the butcher that's in the supermarket. Of course, if you have an independent butcher that is in your town, you can of course go to them. But if you don't, you just go to the butcher in the supermarket and talk to them. I find that the butchers there are usually very excited and very, very helpful whenever you come to ask them for stuff, because most people don't talk to them. So if you go up and actually say, hey, I need some help with something, do you have this? They're more than happy to come and help you out. Now this recipe comes from my dad, and his secret ingredient is chicken feet. What he does is he takes the chicken feet, about 2 pounds or 1 kilo, he fries them up really hot in avocado oil so they get nice and brown before adding in the bones and then the water and all of our aromatics. The reason we use chicken feet is because of the collagen that they have. The collagen will come from the feet into the stock, and when it cools down, it'll be a little jelly-like. That's okay, and that's a sign that you got a lot of collagen out. I went to all these places and I asked if they had chicken feet, but no one had chicken feet for some reason. I feel like that would be kind of an important thing to have, or at least maybe they just, I don't know. I really don't know why they don't have it. I even Googled it where you can buy chicken feet in Croatia, and I only found one site that said that you could buy chicken feet for €1.10 per kilo, but wouldn't tell you where, and it was a year old, so there are no chicken feet in the one I'm making today. But if you can find chicken feet, definitely use the chicken feet. That's enough about chicken feet. Let me just talk briefly about the fat. So my dad also says we should have the skin in there because there's a lot of good fat that can come out of the skin into our soup and our stock. This is going to add flavor. However, if you think that might be in too much, like you don't want a lot of fat, once you put it into the fridge and let it cool down, the fat will rise to the top and solidify. You can easily scoop it off. And you can also save it and cook with that as well. This is what schmaltz is. It's chicken fat. Sorry. All right, that seems enough about our chicken. It is frozen, but that's okay. We're just going to put it right into the pot, and it'll warm up as it's cooking. It's also going to sit on the pot for like at least 3 hours, so it doesn't matter if it starts frozen or not. All right, let's move on into our aromatic. I have 2 carrots, which I've halved and halved again, 1 onion cut into quarters, as well as 2 celery stalks, which I just cut in half, and 2 cloves of garlic, once again, cut in half. My dad's recipe doesn't usually call for garlic, but I love garlic, so I'm putting it in there. And of course, we have our herbs. The herbs you're going to use are really going to be up to you and what you like. I would say as a base, you definitely want to have parsley, rosemary, and a bay leaf. If you have thyme, thyme would be a perfect addition as well. For some other reason, I can't seem to find thyme here. It's quite annoying. I'm also going to add in oregano and a bit of basil, just to get a little bit more flavor in there. Since this is a soup, I have soup noodles that we're going to use in the final product. And lastly, I'm just going to talk briefly about the apple cider vinegar that I have here. It doesn't really seem like it would be something you would add into a stock, and generally it is optional, but it will be very good at getting all the nutrients out of the bones. The apple cider vinegar will make the stock a little bit acidic, which will help pull more nutrients from the bones in our carcass. That just means that the end product is going to be a lot more nutritious than if we didn't have the vinegar in there. You can skip it if you'd like. It is not by all means required, but I will highly recommend it. I think it makes a much more flavorful and much healthier stock. And of course we have salt and pepper. My dad likes to use peppercorns, but I'm just going to grind the pepper into the stock, and the salt, we'll put only a little bit in for now. We don't want to overpower the stock with too much salt. And I've been saying stock and soup very interchangeably because it's the same thing. You need stock to make soup, and we're going to further along and make soup, hence the noodles. However, if stock and soup in this context, it's the same. We don't want to add too much salt in at the beginning because we don't want to risk over salting our stock. We can always add salt in later, so we're only going to put in maybe about a teaspoon of salt to begin with. Always add more later. That's the most important part. That's why I'm always conservative about how much salt or other spices I put in at the beginning, because you can always add more. You can never take away. So that seems to be about everything. What we're going to do is, if you have the chicken feet, first you want to sear them in your pot and then add everything else. Since we don't have the chicken feet, we're just going to go ahead and put everything directly into the pot, of course, except for the soup noodles. I'm going to take the frozen carcass, which has the neck, innards, there's wings in here, there's the leg bones, there's all the skin, basically everything from the chicken that I didn't remove before. I'm just going to go and place it right in, and it fits perfectly. Now I'm also going to take our aromatics, here we go, and just take them and put them right on in. So don't really want to touch the board because I have the chicken. I'm going to use this board for something else later. Okay. Just make sure everything is in our pot. So I'm going to go over to the sink now and fill this with water till about everything is just covered. And once our chicken is just barely covered, big pot. Take our pot and place it right over here on the stove. Turn the flame on high, and we want it to come up to a boil. Once it comes up to a boil, immediately turn the heat down. We're going to let it simmer for about 3 hours. You'll know it's done when the carcass starts falling apart. While that's over there on the stove coming up to a boil, we're going to make our herb bouquet. So what we'll need is a coffee filter and a string to tie everything up. We'll just leave the string off to the side and open up our coffee filter as such, and we'll take each of our spices and just add about a tablespoon into the coffee filter. Go one by one and add everything. Might have been a lot of basil. I'm not going to put the bay leaf into our coffee filter because it's a lot easier to remove. These ones are small and they're dry, and I don't want them in the final product, which is why they're in the coffee filter. So we'll go ahead and give a little shake to mix everything together, and then we'll fold over once as such, and once more to seal. Take our string, just wrap around as such, and tie closed. And here we have our herb bouquet. So over here at the stove, we'll go ahead and start adding in all of our ingredients. We've already gone ahead and put the herb bouquet on. We'll just take our herb bouquet and nestle it right there along the side, and the string will attach onto the pot holder. This will make it easier to fish out later. Now we'll just get some salt, just to remember just a little bit, our pepper, grind right in, our bay leaves. I'm going to go with, I guess, 3 because that one's pretty small. The splash of apple cider vinegar. You want about a tablespoon. As I said, we'll let this come up to a boil and then immediately turn down the heat to leave it at a simmer. If you need to switch burners in order to keep it as a simmer, then do so. Heat control isn't just about where the knob is on the stove, it's about which burner you are using. This is the big burner. It's going to have a lot more heat output than the small one over here. Right now, this is good. We want it to come up to a boil. Once we want it to low and slow simmer. A smaller burner may be necessary. Also, as it is simmering, it's a good idea to keep an eye on it and just see if there's any sort of scum formation at the top. Since this is chicken, there's going to be less scum than there was with the beef bones. If you remember, we had to boil all the beef bones up so all the scum came to the top for a few minutes and then dump it and clean it all out. That's not necessary with chicken. Just skim the bit that comes to the top, and otherwise you just let it sit for about 3 hours. You'll know it's done if you take a fork and just start poking at the carcass and it starts to fall apart. That's how you know that you've taken all of the nutrients out of the carcass that you possibly will, and it's time to cut the heat. After the stock has simmered for at least 3 hours, but if you have time to go longer, do go longer, time to strain everything out. So a lot of people say you should do this over the sink, but I'm going to do it here, one, because then I can show you, and two, I'm totally the person who would accidentally just pour this down the drain. So I have here my strainer into the bowl that I'm going to pour the stock into. This part's pretty simple. Just leave that here, and let's just take the herb bouquet off first. I'm just gonna leave it in there, and all the stock will simply drip out. So just take the pot. We'll go quickly because you want to commit. Pour into our pot. There we go. Try to get everything out so all the liquid will leave and go into our stock. There's a little bit left in there, but it's nothing too much. Lots of steam coming up. And we're gonna let this sit for about 5 minutes so all the stock comes out of our ingredients. We get everything basically that we made. We don't want to leave anything in here, so that would just be a waste. Hurry up all until you can take your spoon and just lightly press down on everything, ensuring all of our liquid gold is released. Now that all the stock is drained out of the parts from the pot, we have our pure stock. What you want to do is leave this to cool down. If it's cold outside like it is today, you can either put it by the window or outside and let it cool before putting it into the fridge. In the fridge, this should last a little less than a week. In the freezer, this should last a few months. However, we are making chicken soup. So we're going to take a ladle. I'm just going to give this a good stir. So all the fat will have gone to the top. And I'm going to take my separate bowl and put the stock into this pot quickly. And since we're making soup, I'm going to put this back onto the stove. And once it comes up to a boil, it shouldn't be too long because the stock is already really hot. Add in our soup noodles, and then we'll be able to serve our soup. The soup noodles cook very quickly, so they are already done. And now it's time to serve. Got our ladle again. Just go into the soup and get most of the broth. I'm going to actually tilt this so I can get a lot of the noodles as well. And fill up my soup bowl here with our homemade chicken noodle soup. And there we have it, kokoshayuha. So I went ahead and just gave a little taste for seasoning, added some salt, and now tasted well. If it's a little too oily, of course you can always go ahead and skim some of the oil off the top. But with the stock that's cooling, after it cools down in either the fridge or the freezer, the fat will come to the surface, make it very easy to skim off. The stock from before you can use for literally anything that you need chicken stock for, and since it's homemade, you know it will be much better than anything you get out of the box. Now I think I'll just shut up and go ahead and give this our taste for Greg. Ooh, that's hot. It's hot, but it's so good. And for me, it's not too oily. All the flavors of everything that we put in there are there, but not one flavor overpowers the other. Sure, it's chicken stock, so it does taste like chicken, but the aromatics, the herbs, all meld so beautifully together into literal liquid gold. And it's so good. You just can't stop. You cannot stop. You don't even have to be sick. Just eat this when you... The only thing I hate are the noodles, which are so small, they refuse to like stay on my fork. I like a hefty spoonful of noodles. Oh, come on. Give it to me, Dad. I give up. It's good. Hey everyone, welcome back. Hey Hey everyone, welcome back to Chef Tyler's Croatian Kitchen, and today we'll be continuing our exploration of Croatian soups with chicken soup, or kokošja juha. Kokošja juha. Kokošja. Oh, you look kokošja juha, it's so pretty on Vasiljevo.